The Facebook invitation arrived at 2:17 a.m. Lily's wedding. Come celebrate with us at the Grand Bellacort. Below it, my cousin Bethany's comment already had 14 likes. Wow, fancy venue. How did she afford this place? I stared at the invitation, knowing exactly how she could afford it. I should know. I'd been the anonymous owner for 4 years, ever since I quietly purchased the struggling venue through my investment company, Viridian Enterprises. My family had always measured worth in dollar signs and social status. While my cousins flaunted their retail jobs as markers of success, I'd been building an empire of commercial properties and event spaces across 3 states. They thought I was just another property management worker, barely scraping by. Saturday arrived with perfect wedding weather. I parked my modest Honda Civic next to the Bentleys and BMWs, taking my seat at table 12 with Lily's coworkers, while the important family held court at table 1. The ceremony was beautiful. Lily glowed in her flowing gown, genuinely happy with her choice of venue, the gardens in perfect bloom, the historic ballroom gleaming from renovations I'd personally approved and funded. But as champagne loosened tongues during the reception, familiar patterns emerged. Can you believe Lily pulled this off? Bethany whispered loudly to her sister Courtney. The Grand Bellacort costs $30,000 just for venue rental. Maybe she put it all on credit cards, Courtney suggested. You know how desperate she's been to compete with us since we got our promotions. I continued eating, pretending not to hear. At table 1 sat the successful family, Bethany with her bank job, Courtney with her department store management position, Uncle Dave with his small construction business. Where's poor Chloe sitting? Bethany's voice carried over the music. Oh look, table 12 with the coworkers. At least Lily didn't put her with important family. During cocktail hour, I overheard Bethany explaining that some of us are more successful than others in this family. During dinner, Courtney mentioned her recent promotion to management. Uncle Dave cornered the groom about real estate investment opportunities, despite owning only his own home and 1 rental property. I smiled, nodded when spoken to, and enjoyed watching Lily's happiness. This was her day, and my family's pecking order seemed smaller in the face of genuine celebration. Then the real conversation began. I don't understand how Lily afforded this place, Bethany said, no longer whispering as she surveyed the crystal chandeliers and marble floors. The flowers alone must have cost $10,000. Maybe her new husband's family paid, Courtney suggested, because we all know Lily's side of the family. She gestured vaguely toward my table. Well, some of us have been more successful than others, Uncle Dave interjected. Bethany, you're in banking. You understand finances. This venue is for people with real money. Bethany preened. I'm a loan officer at First National. I see people's financial situations daily. Most people our age couldn't qualify for the credit line this wedding requires, unless she borrowed from family. Courtney lowered her voice. From the successful ones. They looked meaningfully at their own table. Bethany's husband, the financial advisor. Courtney's husband, the small accounting firm manager. I hope she didn't ask Chloe. Bethany laughed. Can you imagine? Hey, Chloe, lend me $30,000. She can barely afford her own rent. The table erupted in laughter. Other guests glanced over, curious about the amusement during what should have been a romantic celebration. I felt my phone buzz. My property manager. Grand Bellacort event going smoothly. Recent renovations exceeded expectations. The $340,000 in improvements I'd personally approved. New marble flooring, updated lighting, complete restoration of historic moldings. Chloe looks like she's having fun, Courtney observed, watching me check my phone. Probably texting her landlord about next month's rent. More laughter. I noticed other guests looking uncomfortable. Lily's in-laws were exchanging glances. You know what? I don't understand. Bethany continued. How do people like Chloe even get invited to weddings at places like this? She doesn't really fit the demographic. What demographic? Asked Mrs. Miller, Lily's former neighbor. Successful people. People who appreciate quality venues. People who understand what it costs to rent the Grand Bellacort. Mrs. Miller raised an eyebrow. And you understand these costs? I work in banking. I see what people earn, what they can afford. Some people are living way beyond their means. Tonight, I excused myself to use the restroom, walking through the venue, and noticing details I'd specifically requested. Restored crown molding, carefully selected artwork, state-of-the-art sound system. In the restroom, I encountered Isabel, the event coordinator I'd worked with for 4 years. She'd always known me as Ms. Williams, the owner who preferred email communication. Ms. Williams, I didn't expect to see you here tonight. Is everything meeting your standards? Everything looks perfect, Isabel. The staff has done exceptional work. We've been getting interesting feedback from Table 1. They've been asking serving staff about tonight's costs, making comments about who can really afford to book here. It's making the team uncomfortable. My family's dominance games were one thing when directed at me, but involving my staff crossed a line. Have they been inappropriate with the catering team? One of them asked our head server how much the bride's family paid. When he declined to share pricing, she said something about working people knowing their place. Of course, I'll handle it. I returned as Lily and her husband Alex had their first dance. Surrounded by warm chandelier glow I'd personally selected, they looked genuinely happy, lost in their world of new marriage and future possibilities. At Table 1, the commentary continued. Look at this setup, Bethany told an expanded audience. The flowers, lighting, marble floors. This is probably a $50,000 wedding minimum. Did you see the menu? Surf and turf? That's premium pricing, Courtney added. Uncle Dave nodded. In construction, I work with venue owners constantly. The Grand Bellacort is top tier. We're talking serious money, which makes you wonder how this got paid for. Bethany continued. Lily works in insurance. Her husband's in IT. These aren't high-roller careers. A woman I didn't recognize looked uncomfortable. Maybe they saved for their dream wedding. Bethany laughed. Honey, I see insurance workers' loan applications. This wedding is either debt-financed or someone else is paying. It's definitely not our side of the family, Courtney chimed in. None of us could afford to subsidize this extravagance. Those of us who've built real success know money's value, Uncle Dave agreed. We don't blow it on other people's fairy tales. I stood and walked toward Isabel near the DJ booth. Several guests noticed my movement. Isabel, could you join me? She approached with practiced discretion. Is there a problem, Miss Williams? The guests at Table 1 have been making inappropriate comments to staff about pricing and the host's finances. I want our team to know they have full support maintaining professional boundaries. Should I speak with them directly? My family had spent the evening establishing superiority based on their perceived understanding of real money. They'd involve my staff in their need to demean other guests. I'll handle this personally. The first dance ended to applause. Lily and Alex beamed, overwhelmed by celebration surrounding them. The DJ transitioned to upbeat music as couples joined the dance floor. I walked toward Table 1, where Bethany now held court with an even larger audience, having appointed herself the evening's wedding economics expert. The thing about venues like this, she explained, is they're designed for a specific clientele, people who don't think twice about spending money, like investment bankers and doctors, Courtney added. Exactly. People with serious careers in real financial planning, not people who work in support positions. Mrs. Miller spoke up. Are you suggesting some guests don't belong here? I'm just saying different people have different financial realities. Some understand what it takes to afford quality venues and some don't. You understand these requirements? Because I work in banking. I see what people really earn versus what they pretend to afford. Tonight's event is either debt-financed or someone's living an unsustainable fantasy. I approached their conversation circle. Several people noticed me, but Bethany was too engaged to pay attention. The Grand Bellacort doesn't rent to just anyone, she continued authoritatively. They have standards. They want clients who reflect the venue's prestige. Excuse me, I said quietly. Bethany turned. Oh, Chloe, we were discussing what a beautiful venue Lily chose. You must be impressed being at such an elegant place. I am impressed. The Grand Bellacort has exceeded my expectations tonight. Most of us could never afford something like this, Courtney jumped in. But it's fun to see how the other half lives, right, Chloe? It's educational, I agreed. Bethany, I overheard you explaining the venue's standards and clientele requirements. You seem knowledgeable about the Grand Bellacort's business practices. Bethany preened. I work in banking. I understand luxury markets and high-end venue management. Places like this are very selective. Selective how? They want clients who can afford their services without question. People who understand quality and don't need to compromise other life aspects to afford one big event. That's fascinating. So, what kind of person gets to host events here? Successful people, Bethany said confidently. Business owners, professionals, people with established wealth, not people stretching finances or depending on others. I see. And you can tell by looking whether someone belongs at a venue like this. People in banking develop an eye for these things, Bethany said, warming up. Places like the Grand Bellacort need to protect their brand. No, they can't just rent to anyone with a credit card. Just then, Isabel appeared at my shoulder with intuitive timing. Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. Bethany looked up expectantly, probably assuming Isabel was there for water refills. Ms. Williams, Isabel continued, addressing me directly. The photographer is requesting to discuss tomorrow's corporate event setup. Should I tell her you'll meet Monday? The entire table fell silent as my family processed what they'd heard. Tomorrow is fine, Isabel. The Viridian Enterprises quarterly celebration is smaller, so standard setup works perfectly. Of course. Should I confirm the menu changes for next weekend's anniversary party? The Hendersons wanted the premium wine selection. Approved. Make sure they get the 2015 vintage. Isabel nodded professionally and started away, but I called her back. Isabel, one more thing. The guests at this table have been asking staff about tonight's pricing and making comments about venue policies. Could you clarify our position on guest inquiries about private event costs? Isabel understood immediately. The Grand Bellacort's policy is that all financial arrangements are confidential between the venue and event hosts. Our staff never discuss pricing with guests, and we don't tolerate harassment of team members. Perfect. And our policy on determining which clients are appropriate for our venue? The Grand Bellacort welcomes all clients who treat our facilities and staff with respect, regardless of background or perceived financial status. We believe celebration should be accessible to anyone who values our services. Thank you, Isabel. As Isabel left, I turned back to table 1. Bethany's face was completely white. Courtney stared as if seeing me for the first time. Uncle Dave's mouth hung open. You, Bethany started, then stopped. I own the Grand Bellacort, I said simply. Have for 4 years. Tonight's event is being hosted at cost as my wedding gift to Lily. The silence stretched across multiple tables. Other guests had stopped conversations to listen. You can't, Courtney stammered. I purchased the venue in 2019 when previous owners faced bankruptcy. I've invested over $2 million in renovations. Isabel's team reports to me directly. Uncle Dave found his voice. But you work in property management. I own a property management company, Viridian Enterprises. We manage 47 commercial properties across 3 states, including 12 wedding venues. Bethany shook her head. That's impossible. You drive a Honda. You live in a small apartment. I drive a Honda because it's reliable, and I don't need to prove anything through my car. I live modestly because I travel frequently and prefer investing in properties rather than personal luxury. I work very hard managing an 8-figure business portfolio. The revelations spread across the reception. Guests at other tables leaned in, some fascinated, others uncomfortable with the public nature of my family's humiliation. Why didn't you tell us? Bethany whispered. Tell you what, that I was successful? Would it have changed how you treated me? We didn't treat you badly, Courtney protested weakly. Tonight alone, you've told strangers I don't belong at high-end venues, can barely afford rent, don't understand real money, and represent the demographic that doesn't fit successful people. Uncle Dave tried to recover. We didn't mean anything personal. You established a hierarchy positioning yourselves as arbiters of success, and me as the cautionary tale of financial failure. You did this at your cousin's wedding in front of her guests while enjoying hospitality I provided. I looked around the table at faces struggling to process what was happening. Bethany, you're a loan officer at a regional bank. Courtney, you manage a retail store. Uncle Dave, you own a small construction business. These are respectable careers, and I've never suggested otherwise. But tonight, you positioned yourselves as experts on luxury venues based on these positions. Bethany started to speak, but I continued. More importantly, you made my staff uncomfortable with inappropriate pricing questions and dismissive comments about service workers. That ends now. Isabel reappeared with 2 other staff members. Ms. Williams, is everything all right? Everything's fine, Isabel. I was clarifying misconceptions about the Grand Bellacort's policies and ownership. I turned back to my family. You're welcome to stay and celebrate Lily's wedding, but commentary about who belongs at premium venues stops immediately. Bethany found her voice, barely a whisper. Chloe, we didn't know. You didn't know because you never asked. You assumed that because I don't flaunt wealth, I must be struggling financially. You built an entire narrative without being curious about reality. Courtney stared at her hands. You thought success looks like luxury cars and designer clothes and loud money proclamations. You thought anyone who doesn't perform wealth must not have it. What happens now? Bethany asked quietly. Now you decide whether you're here to celebrate Lily's marriage or perform social superiority. If it's the latter, you're welcome to leave. If it's the former, we can focus on why we're actually gathered. I looked around the table one final time. The Grand Bellacort is honored to host Lily and Alex's celebration. Every guest is welcome regardless of career, income, or family dynamics. That includes all of you. I started walking away, then turned back. One more thing. Lily doesn't know tonight's event is my wedding gift. She believes she and Alex paid full price. I'd prefer to keep it that way. Her happiness isn't about my financial contribution. It's about the love she's celebrating. The rest of the evening passed quietly. My family stayed, but the dynamic had shifted permanently. During the bouquet toss, Lily grabbed my arm. Chloe, I'm so glad you could make it. This venue is like a fairy tale, isn't it? It really is, I agreed, watching her face glow with genuine happiness. You look beautiful, Lily. As the evening wound down, I helped Isabel coordinate cleanup, something I'd done dozens of times at various properties, though never in a cocktail dress. I've worked with many venue owners, Isabel said as we watched the last guests leave. I've never seen one handle a situation like that with such grace. My family isn't malicious, Isabel. They've just spent years building a story that made them comfortable with their choices. Tonight, that story got challenged. I looked out at the parking lot where Bethany and Courtney stood by their cars talking intensely with their husbands. Uncle Dave loaded centerpieces into his truck. People adapt to new information differently, I continued. Some learn and grow. Others find new ways to maintain their original narrative. As I drove home in my reliable Honda, I thought about the story I'd been living. Hidden success, modest appearance, quiet competence. It had served my business well. Competitors underestimated me. Clients focused on results rather than personality. But it had also enabled my family's need to maintain hierarchies based on assumptions. By never correcting their misconceptions, I'd allowed them to build social dynamics around those misconceptions. Tomorrow, I had 3 corporate events to coordinate and quarterly reports to review. Lily and Alex would begin their honeymoon, never knowing their dream venue was a gift. And Bethany, Courtney, and Uncle Dave would begin adjusting their family narrative to accommodate the reality that the quiet, unsuccessful cousin they dismissed was actually the most financially successful person at tonight's celebration. Some stories write themselves over years of small interactions. Others change completely in a single conversation. Tonight had been the latter. Tomorrow would reveal which kind of family I actually had.